Well, hello there. Roy Cohen here. I am today's host on the Community Forum show. It happens once in a while, but more frequently when we have a very special guest with us today, Mary Maguire, back again to tell us about places to go, tell us about gas prices. You notice how I'm cringing. They have gone up again. I think the only people that are happy when the prices of gas go up are the people who produce it. Those are the ones that get millions and millions and millions every day of our money. I don't know, someday the prices will come back down. Maybe Mary has some influence in that area, but whenever you hear her on the radio, you go, uh-oh, the prices are up. And welcome, Mary. It's nice to have you back again. Mary Maguire, she's the, where are you? She's the Director of Public and Legislative Affairs at AAA Southern New England. And one of the things I found out after reading your information is AAA is a nonprofit organization?
A not-for-profit.
Not-for-profit organization.
Not-for-profit.
I never realized that. I thought they were just a big business. They're out there to help the drivers, it sounds like.
Well, absolutely. We live to help and serve our members,
yes.
And we have been around for more than 100 years now doing just that, so we're very proud of that.
You look pretty good for someone that's been around for 100 years.
That's because it's May Day.
That's right. Happy May Day, everybody.
Happy May
for
Day.
Those of you who are watching today or down the road, May Day used to be, I was talking about it with my wife today, how in elementary school, way back, we used to have the maypole in the streamers of crepe paper, and we all used to run around the maypole, and it would be all different colors and stuff. Why am I talking about that?
We actually do a May Day breakfast at AAA Southern New England.
Did you have that today?
Unfortunately, I had to be elsewhere. We do it in the Providence headquarters. And but although we do in the branches, we also have our own little independent celebrations. And I work out of the Westwood branch, so hopefully we'll have our own breakfast and we all get together and kind of catch up, and it's a great way to reconnect. That
sounds fantastic. Well, you've already had your breakfast here as a courtesy of Maxie's Delicatessen, and that was very delicious.
Thank you, Maxie's.
Thank you, Maxie's is correct. You know what I wanted to ask you? I'm not sure that we've ever gotten into what the Director of Public and Legislative Affairs does. What does that position entail?
A lot of things. I'm like a seal with a lot of plates in the air.
Interesting.
But what it entails, my two major functions are, number one, I'm a government affairs advocate for AAA at the State House on Beacon Hill. So we advocate for all sorts of traffic safety related bills, such as the primary seatbelt bill, which we're working on now. We hope that everybody out there is buckling up. We hope that everybody will support us in trying to pass a primary seatbelt bill. Ignition interlock, which impacts drunk driving, and a whole variety of other traffic safety issues. We helped to successfully pass the texting ban that went into effect in 2010 in Massachusetts. Also the slow down, move over law, which protects our emergency responders. And in fact, we just testified in favor of a bill that would extend that measure, that law that now exists to utility vehicles. So I testify at hearings in support on behalf of AAA. Sometimes we testify in opposition to certain things, so it just depends. But we have an ongoing dialogue with legislators on Beacon Hill, and I like to think of many of them as our friends, and they've been very responsive to our issues, which is wonderful. And my second important role is to do what I'm doing right now. I'm the spokesperson for AAA in Massachusetts.
Excellent.
Yeah, but you know what? We do so many different things in public affairs, which is where I work. We have a wonderful team, and down in Rhode Island right now, we're doing our annual auto skills competition. And this is where we bring together the best top students, top young auto technicians from Rhode Island, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. The Massachusetts competition is next week, actually, is May 8th, I believe. And we bring these students together, and we actually have a young woman competitor in Rhode Island this morning, which is terrific. And the kids, each kid gets the same vehicle, and the vehicle has a bug that's been placed in it. And the teams, there are teams of two that work together. They have to try to correctly diagnose what the bug is, and then they have to get that car running again, and they're timed. So it's a really intense competition. We've been doing this at AAA in cooperation with Ford since 1949, I believe. So we've been doing the auto skills competition for many years, and we're really proud of it, and we're excited about the upcoming Massachusetts and Connecticut competitions. It really gives students a leg up. Many of these students are the auto technicians of the future. They do a lot with computer diagnosis now, and they also get a lot of terrific prizes that are donated by AAA, by Ford, as well as by our many sponsors who are involved in this competition. We do pedestrian safety awards. We do all sorts of advice about travel, which we're going to talk about, I know, later on this show. We really sponsor a host of different contests. We have a poster contest for kids in schools. We do a lot of community outreach. We speak on bicycle safety. We're going to talk about Bicycle Safety Month, starts today, May 1st, and we have a great new bike program at AAA that we've launched this week. So we're involved in so many different things. I think people would be amazed. So a lot of variety to the job, and I'm very thankful for that.
Sounds like you could fill up the hour with just what you do. The driving contest that you have with the kids, is it driving also, driving skills, or is it just trying to find the bugs and analyzing that?
Just in this particular case of auto skills, just trying to find the bug, diagnose the bug, and then fix the bug and get the car running again, get the car started within a certain period of time.
You're reminding me of when I was a child. A long time ago, I was hanging around the Jewish Community Center in Providence, which is where I grew up. And in the summertime, they had a summer canteen, and what they had was they called it a rodeo. But that was to test your driving skills, getting in the car, pulling into spaces that were defined by traffic cones and stuff like that. And I won it. I won the contest, and I still have the plaque somewhere buried in the house. If I thought about it, I would have brought it in. But that was a way of teaching us how to drive.
That's terrific. Congratulations. So you won for your driving skills. And I know the Jewish Community Center well on Elm Grove Avenue in Providence.
That's correct.
Yeah. And I have a number of friends who live around there. But that's a great thing to do. And you know, we have bike rodeos at AAA. We sponsor quite a few bike rodeos in our territory where same kind of thing, where we teach kids and their parents, in some cases, how to ride a bike safely, what the rules of the road are, wearing a helmet, protecting yourself, wearing bright colored clothing, all of those things.
The fact that you have to follow the same rules as cars?
Absolutely. You have to obey the same rules. I see a lot of cyclists. I'm a cyclist myself, and I see a lot of cyclists running through stop signs when they think it's safe, running through red lights when they don't see traffic in the intersection. But as a cyclist, you are compelled to obey the same rules of the road as cars.
Speaking of the Jewish Community Center, another thought comes to mind, which has nothing to do with our conversation. The JCC Summer Canteen Committee is in operation right now. They're trying to pull together a reunion of the canteen back in the 50s.
Oh, wow.
And it's going to be at the JCC in Providence on August 24th. And my old band, which was together then, called the Ghost Riders, are going to have a reunion and play that night.
Oh,
And
you're
we haven't been
kidding.
together, with the exception of a couple of times, for 50 years. There's three of us. One of the members lives in Georgia. He's going to be coming up. The other one lives in Cranston, and I'm here in Stoughton. So it should be a fun night.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's my son's birthday, by the way, August 24th. But you know, I've been inside the center, and they have a lot, if I recall, a lot of old photographs in there about the history of the center and some of the things that you're talking about. They really have a nice display in there, as I recall.
Well, the center that we were involved in was the old Providence Police substation
Okay.
that the center took over. And I remember they had a pool in the backyard, which was just a slab that went down and filled with water. I don't know how clean or hygienic it was at the time, but we all seem to have survived. Anyways, let's get back to the real meaning of the show today. We have a bunch of subjects that I want to talk about, and let's get rid of the awful one first, the price of gasoline.
Right.
I drive for a living, and I spend $40, $45, $50 a day in gasoline. I don't like when the prices go up. I think the only ones that are happy are the ones who are producing it, but the rest of us are not happy.
I am right there with you. I drive almost 40,000 miles a year myself, and we have seen a significant increase in Massachusetts in the last month. We're up about 17 cents in the last month. We were up 8 cents this week for an average in Massachusetts for regular unleaded gasoline of $3.68. We were up 7 cents last week, so we've seen two dramatic jumps in these last 2 weeks, and it's pain at the pump for sure.
Yeah, now you have the legislature talking about trying to rescind the automatic increase in gas tax. You know about that?
Yeah, there's a repeal effort, that's been launched by a number of Republican legislators to repeal the indexing, the law that would index the gas tax to inflation.
I wonder if the inflation figures went down, if the tax would go down.
Well, you know, AAA has a position on this, which is that we are in favor of, we had the increase, the 3-cent increase in the gasoline tax, and it is indexed to inflation. And we actually feel that because of the situation with the infrastructure, we're woefully underfunded across the United States when it comes to transportation infrastructure. For example, we have the oldest trains in the MBTA and the T here in Boston. You saw the pothole situation this spring, which is ongoing. And we have a number of bridges and roads that are badly in need of repair. And we're actually running way behind in terms of the upkeep that we need to be doing just to maintain the roads and bridges. And we need to go above and beyond that. We need to make improvements in order to keep our economy healthy. For every dollar that you put into transportation infrastructure, you reap much more, you yield much more than that in terms of jobs, the economy. Everybody's talking about unemployment. One of the great ways to put people back to work is to make infrastructure improvements. And it really is important to the economic future of the state. We feel that to protect that investment in the infrastructure for future generations, for my children, your children, our grandchildren, that it needs to be indexed to inflation. So that we support the gasoline tax indexing, and we've actually done a number of press releases on it.
What assurance do we have that that money will go to the fixing, repairs, and maintaining of the infrastructure? What assurance do we have?
Well, that money is earmarked. It must go towards transportation. So it's got to be used for transportation purposes. And again, you know, this is an investment in the economy that pays off for everybody in terms of the ability to be safer. You know, bridges, when you have substandard bridges in need of repair, that impacts people's safety. You wouldn't want your children or your grandchildren driving across a substandard bridge or driving on a substandard roadway. So safety is our #1 priority at AAA, the safety of motorists. And we really feel that investments in the transportation infrastructure are one of the best ways to make people safe.
Is this the kind of testifying that you do?
We have not testified on this issue, but as I said, we have spoken out in press releases, and you know, we've been very vocal and upfront about our position.
If you listen to the talk masters, they don't sound like they're very much in favor of this automatic increase every time the cost of living goes up. They just think that the legislature is gutless in the fact that they don't get a chance to vote on these increases all the time, that they put in a position or they put in a law that automatically raises the price of gas or taxes.
Right. Again, we feel that the indexing to inflation is a way to really keep pace. It's always more expensive to do a repair 10 years hence or 5 years hence or 2 years hence than it is to do it now. So by having the automatic increases, we feel that that's the best way to, in the most reasonable way financially, make the improvements that we need to make. I think people also need to remember, I certainly sympathize, driving as much as I do and living in Massachusetts, with people's frustration over high gasoline prices, because prices are high, there's no doubt about that, and it takes a lot out of people's pockets, out of my pocket, and it certainly curbs the amount of disposable income that we all have available to us. And it's pretty frustrating when you feel like a lot of your income is going into your gas tank. But, you know, by the same token, first of all, again, you have to remember that dollars invested in the infrastructure pay off in terms of jobs, in terms of creating a better economic climate. But we also have to remember that there hasn't been an increase in the gasoline tax in Massachusetts prior to the one that we saw last year. There hasn't been an increase in more than 20 years. So think of, you know, the food you buy at the grocery store or the shoes you're buying your children. You know, is it possible that the price of sneakers hasn't increased in 20 years? I don't think so. Or that the price of food, which we've heard is going to be going up even now, hasn't increased in 20 years. So, you know, part of keeping up with the demands of having a thriving economy today require investments in infrastructure, and that requires those who use the roads to sometimes absorb an increase in the tax. One of the things that I think is interesting, however, is the fact that on a weekly basis, you know, we just saw, as I said, a fluctuation in the price of regular gasoline in Massachusetts, a hike of 8 cents this week, 7 cents last week. I mean, that's something that I think people should be vocal about. You know, as opposed to a 3-cent increase that's going to be invested in transportation, because I think that it's difficult. People are really required to absorb, the ups and downs of the market in a very real way. I mean, an 8-cent increase is pretty substantial. And so what we advise people to do is to use every tool in their toolbox to combat the high price of gasoline.
Such as?
Well, for example, if you don't need mid-grade or high-test premium gasoline for your car, don't buy it. Buy regular. The great majority of cars drive just fine with regular gasoline. Mm-hmm. And if you're driving a car that needs mid-grade or premium. But for the most part, most folks are just fine, and most cars are just fine with regular gasoline. So you can save yourself a significant amount of money per gallon just by buying regular. The other thing we advise people to do is slow down. Not only will you be safer if you're going at the speed limit or under, but you save yourself a tremendous amount of fuel. You are much more fuel efficient when you're driving at 60 or under. And for every 5 miles under 65 miles per hour that you travel, your fuel efficiency increases exponentially. The other piece of advice we give people is really modify your driving style. If you're a nice and easy driver, if you drive like there's an egg between your foot and the accelerator, you're going to be very fuel efficient, much more fuel efficient than you'll be if you're one of those folks we see and don't like, who weaves in and out of traffic, who does the hard stops, the jackrabbit starts. Those things, the hard braking, the quick starts, require a lot more fuel. Whereas if you're nice and easy as a driver, not only are you going to be more relaxed and safer, which is the critical thing, you're going to be much more fuel efficient.
You're also going to drive the guy behind you crazy, who wants to get in front of you just because he can.
Right, but nice
I see
and
that
easy
all the
does
time.
it. Yeah, and we all do, and it's frustrating to see those folks who weave in and out of traffic, and typically, especially if you're on a thoroughfare where there are lights, you end up pulling up next to that person at the light anyway.
Right.
So, nice and easy is safer, it's more relaxing, and it's more fuel efficient. We also urge motorists to treat their car as a bus, not a taxi. And that means consolidating your trips and making stops along the way, as a bus does, as opposed to thinking of your car as a taxi, and every time you need to do an errand or your kids need something at the drugstore or the toy store, running out to do that errand. You want to do some planning in order to be fuel efficient. You want to think, okay, on my way home from work today, I can stop at the mall, or I can pick up the groceries I need, or you know what, I'm not going to make the special trip to the mall today. I'm going to do it tomorrow during my lunch break when I'm going to be near the mall anyway. And that planning can really save you a tremendous amount of gas over the course of a week. There are also a lot of great discount programs out there to take advantage of. Cumberland Farms, Irving, there are credit cards that give you rebates on money spent on gas and groceries and all sorts of things.
Shaw's Market.
Absolutely. So there are lots of different discount programs.
Who makes up that money? If Shaw's is giving you 10, 15, 20 cents a gallon off, who pays that?
Well, usually those programs are tied to the groceries that you buy in their store, so it's a great promotion for them. It's a way of getting people into their stores to buy groceries, Stop and Shop, et cetera. So I can't speak for them, but it's a way of attracting customers.
There is one other thing that we need to talk about, which is going to affect the amount of taxes that are raised, and that is that cars and vehicles in general are being made that are more efficient than they used to be.
Absolutely.
Years ago, cars used to get 6 or 7 miles to the gallon. Well, that's when the price of gasoline was 50 cents or whatever.
Right.
But cars now, they're talking about having cars with 35 or 40 miles to the gallon. And so you're going to be buying less gas and therefore raising less tax revenue.
That's absolutely right.
So what are they going to do then? Jack them up some more?
And that's actually another great piece of advice, to buy and to use a fuel-efficient car.
Correct.
And to always try to drive in your most fuel-efficient car, especially when you're driving a long distance. But you're absolutely right. Cars are, and this is a good thing, getting safer and more fuel efficient. That's
Correct.
why we've gone from 55,000 traffic deaths 20 years ago to about 33,000 today, because cars are safer and because more people are buckling up and because cars are equipped with airbags. But cars are also getting more fuel efficient. There's a tremendous demand for that for obvious reasons, because the price of gas is high. So buying a fuel efficient vehicle certainly is a tremendous thing to do, but you're absolutely right. That's why we can't rely only on the gasoline tax, because people are driving fewer miles, number one. More people are out on bikes, more people are using transit, especially in cities. And there's going to be less revenue coming from the gasoline tax because of the fact that cars are growing ever more fuel efficient.
So what are they going to do for the additional money?
So that's why we say in transportation that all options are on the table, that all options need to be looked at, whether it's a vehicle miles traveled tax. And I'm not saying in any way that AAA advocates for that or is pushing for that, but we do believe in a multimodal system, transportation system, where all options are on the table, because it is important to keep a good funding level in terms of growing our infrastructure and making sure the infrastructure we have is the safest possible for motorists, for those who ride transit, for those who commute in many different ways, including pedestrian and bicycle commuters.
Who's responsible for the 6 and 8 cent raises, like we've gone through in the last couple of weeks? Who's responsible for that?
Well, I mean,
and why?
It's a very complicated global equation, and there are many factors that go into increases in the price of gasoline at the pump. One of the major factors right now is the situation in Ukraine and Russia and the conflict there, because Russia is a major oil producer. We've had sanctions against Russia. So that political situation impacts the price of oil, which then impacts the price of gasoline at the pump. So when we saw, for example, the Libyan Spring or the overthrow in Egypt, or any situation that occurs in an oil-producing zone or nation, like Libya, like Egypt, like the Middle East, like North Africa, all of those oil producers, whenever there is turmoil, political turmoil in a part of the world where there is oil production, it tends to create what we call a fear premium. And the fear premium, or the risk premium as we sometimes call it, essentially means that there is a fear that there will be a disruption in the production and or supply of oil and gasoline. Now the U.S. is becoming increasingly more energy dependent, producing more of its own energy. So that's something that's going to offset some of the risk premium and fear premium that we see in some unstable political areas where there's political turmoil. And yet, Russia, the Ukraine definitely has had an impact this spring on oil prices. We also are at the time of year where we see the switchover to the summer blend of gasoline, and that requires refineries to make some changes in their operations, some to shut down temporarily, some to make the switchover. They have to make some changes in equipment, et cetera, and so that means that there can be a cut in production while that refinery switchover is taking place. That also tends to add a couple of cents to the price of gasoline at the pump. Typically, we see a run-up in prices at this time of year because if the weather ever gets nicer, we hope it will, but once it gets warmer, people start traveling more, they plan vacations, typically June, July, August, obviously peak vacation months. We see more people taking day trips, that type of thing. So as the demand increases, we also see the price going up. But AAA is predicting that we will peak between $3.55 and $3.75 sometime this spring, summer, and we're at $3.68 now in Massachusetts, so we're still right in the ballpark. I have to mention one more way in which it really pays to save, and that is that you have to know and shop the low end of the range for gasoline. And for example, we have a 33-cent range in the price of regular unleaded in Massachusetts this week.
Really?
Yeah, so when you're talking about a 33-cent difference, so if you know the low end of the range and you shop the low end of the range, you can save yourself this week up to 33 cents. So make sure that you're going online, you're using your favorite phone app, or simply keeping your eyes open as you travel through your neighborhood. Give your business to the retailer that offers the best, lowest, most competitive price. And that way you keep prices lower for everyone and you save yourself money.
For those of you who live in Stoughton, Sharon, Canton area, Cobb Corner, there's a Shell station that just reopened. The price, they're in a little bit of competition with the mobile station across the street. There is about a 20-cent difference in the cost of gasoline at the Shell station.
Good tip. And that's what I'm talking about.
Go across the street.
That's what I'm talking about.
Save yourself 20 cents a gallon. Okay, Mary, I think we beat that one for a while. Probably the overall solution is to go back in horse and buggies.
Or ride your bike.
And bring your shovel. Okay, ride your bike, huh? That's interesting. Today is what?
Today is the beginning of National Bike Safety Month.
Right.
And we're celebrating that at AAA Southern New England by launching a new program, and it is our Bike Roadside Assistance Program. And it consists of 2 calls that you're able to make as a cyclist and you're stranded at the roadside, 2 calls to AAA that you're able to make to get roadside assistance for your bike. So our technicians will come out, they will have racks installed. They already have racks installed on their trucks. They will come to you at the roadside. They will attempt to repair your bicycle. And if they're not able to repair it, rather than having to walk the bike home, which I've done quite a few times and can be a pretty tough walk, they will put you in the truck or arrange transportation for you or perhaps for your children if you're with your children to get back to your home, to get back to your car if you're riding on a bike path and you've parked your car, or to get your bike to a bike shop where you can have brakes repaired or a chain, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So it's basically our same terrific model of roadside assistance that we've been celebrating for all of these years, more than 100 years, we're now applying to bikes.
That's interesting.
We think so. We think it's great. There are so many more cyclists in the U.S. today, and enthusiasm for cycling is really growing. I'm a cyclist. I ride every day when the weather's warm, mm-hmm. and I've been stranded on the roadside, and it's really nice to know that I can call 1-800-AAA-HELP if I need some assistance, and I'll be able to get home.
They'll respond, huh?
Absolutely. We will respond, and we'll try to fix your problem, and if not, we'll try to get you back to where you belong.
Okay, there's some information on that you had sent to me about bikes pedaling towards a perfect fit. Mm-hmm. Do you know that bicycles are associated with more childhood injuries than any other consumer product besides the automobile? When it comes to buying your youngster a new bike, AAA's Diana Diaz says it's vital that you find the one that's the proper size.
Absolutely. Size
matters. When the bike fits the child, or when he or she can sit on the seat and balance the bike with the balls of both feet touching the ground without leaning to one side or the other. If the bicycle seat is in the lowest position and the child cannot touch both feet to the ground, the bike is too large to be ridden safely. Why am I doing your work?
You're doing a fantastic job.
Measure the child's inseam to the ground. The distance from the top of the bike's horizontal bar, or that's where it would be on the girl's bike, to the ground should be an inch or two shorter than that. Then it has safety suggestions. Consider the brake design. Children's bicycles typically have either hand brakes or coaster brakes, which engage when pedaling backwards. Keep in mind that hand brakes can be dangerous for younger children who have smaller hands and less strength in the wrist. And also, might I add, that if it's wet, the handbrakes won't work quite as well.
Absolutely.
Everyone, regardless of age or skill level, should wear a bicycle helmet on every ride. Head injuries are the leading cause of death in bicycle crashes, but wearing a properly fitted bicycle helmet has been shown to reduce the risk by up to 85%, which is a good number. Before taking a spin on a new bike, check that it's put together securely. Check to make sure the nuts are tight. And that additional safety equipment such as horns or lights have been installed. Wear brightly colored or reflective clothing and learn all the safety rules. And for more safe tips, go to sharetheroad.aaa.com.
That's right.
Did I do good?
You did a fantastic job. Do you want to come to AAA and work for us
and
help us out with our new bike program?
That sounds
would be great. Yeah, and you can also go to AAA.com/bicycle. But, all of those tips, you articulated them beautifully. And, I would just add a couple of things. It's not just the wearing of the helmet. You want to make sure that the helmet really fits properly, mm-hmm. child or adult, and make sure that you've got the straps that are really, tightly fastened so that you've got a snug fit. I see a lot of people riding with, the straps are hanging. That's not going to do you a lot of good. I actually have a friend who was hit on his bike by a car and flew off and was wearing a helmet, and the helmet cracked. But if he hadn't been wearing the helmet, he would have been in much worse shape than he was, and as it was, he was injured. But he's alive. He didn't have a traumatic head injury or brain injury, and these are the kind of things that we really worry about. Another thing I would add is I sometimes see cyclists with earbuds in. It is so critically important as a cyclist to be able to hear oncoming cars, oncoming traffic. That's something that could save your life. You really need to be aware and listening to what's around you and aware of your surroundings, just as you need to be aware of your surroundings when you're in a car and you're scanning the roadway for a cyclist or a pedestrian or a ball coming out suddenly, that type of thing. So you really need to have all of your faculties 100% when you're riding a bike on the roadway or on a bike path, and that means that you need to make sure that you can hear well.
What about rear view mirrors?
Well, some people use them and like them. I
Especially if
think,
you're using earbuds, you should at least be able to see what's behind you.
yeah, absolutely. And I know lots of cyclists who don't use them. I find that I can usually hear very well when there's an oncoming car, but there are a lot of folks who do use the mirrors, and there are others who find them a distraction. So it really depends. I think the bright colored clothing is also really, really important.
You need to be seen.
Well, yeah, and you can install lights on the front and back of your bike. You can install lights on your wheel spokes on a number of different locations on your bike, and that really makes a big difference. I have a neon green jacket that I wear when I ride, and then I have a vest, a neon green and orange vest that I wear when it's hotter out, and it's really important. I tend to ride a lot after work too, and there are a lot of people who ride after work at dusk, and that's when it's really hard to see
It's bad
cyclists. So you want to make sure that you've got the bright colored clothing on, or at least a bright colored shirt, a white shirt, but the reflective clothing is really the best.
Okay, the next question I have for you in that area is if you're on a narrow road, two-way road, which side of the road should you be riding your bike on?
You're always supposed to be riding with the traffic, not against
With the
the
traffic?
traffic. With the traffic, that's correct. Yeah, and you also have to remember that you are compelled to obey all the same laws that a motorist does. So that means stop signs, red lights, you got to be stopping at those. I see a lot of cyclists who, again, the intersection is clear, and so they head through. You are compelled to obey all the same
Crosswalks?
laws. Absolutely, yeah, to stop for pedestrians to cross, et cetera. That's very important.
Interesting.
But-
I thought that when you're riding a bike on a narrow road, you're supposed to be riding towards the traffic.
Now, all the
So you can see.
rules that I've seen say that you should be riding with the flow of traffic as a cyclist now. So, there are also things that motorists have to remember. First of all, they should remember that courtesy and care go a long way, whether you're driving amidst other cars or with bikes. And that means really respecting the bike lane. You should give a cyclist a berth of at least 3 feet when passing. All of these kinds of things really make a big difference. If you're parked in on a street in a bike lane or where there's a lot of bike traffic, you want to make sure if you're opening your door that you're not going to obstruct a cyclist. So you really want to keep your eyes open, want to be aware of your surroundings, want to try to be courteous. Common sense goes a long way.
Yeah, that could be quite harrowing.
Absolutely.
A street like Commonwealth Avenue in Boston or something where they have the bike lane next to the cars. Just use your mirror to make sure there's no bike coming before you open the door.
Yeah, my daughter goes to Boston University, and so I travel Commonwealth Avenue into the city quite often, and I have to say that's probably one of the most challenging thoroughfares on which to drive or ride right now. There actually have been a couple of bicycle fatalities over the past year or two in that area, and it is so important to be focusing completely on your driving, whenever you're driving, but certainly in a city street like Com Ave, because you have a bike lane there, you've got a lot of pedestrians, you've got a lot of students who aren't in the crosswalks, so you really have to be on your game wherever you're driving today, but certainly in urban situations, we have a growing number of bike lanes, and certainly a growing number of pedestrians in Boston, people walking to work, people biking to work. You really have to make sure that you are focused completely on your driving and on watching for pedestrians and cyclists. It's so important. I see so many people when I commute into Boston every day who are reading their phones, and their phones are up to their faces. It's against the law to write, read, or send a text message. I think people have forgotten about the reading part. It is illegal to read your phone. You cannot be holding and reading your phone in Massachusetts and in at least 33 other states. So, I really want to urge people to focus on their driving and really stow their phone. Stow your phone, drive safely. That means you got to focus 100%.
Absolutely. Well, okay. Time to change subjects.
Okay, we're going to talk about
road trips.
Okay.
Some of the information that you sent to me, let's start off with, let's talk about places to go that are not too far and reasonable for the family to go to. My family just took a trip down to Washington, D.C., and they were down there for about 4 or 5 days and did their exploring, and then they came back. That may be a little bit far for most people that might not want to drive 8 or 9 hours to get to a place. But let's start off talking about, and these are all places that you've been and know a lot about, Bar Harbor, Maine.
Bar Harbor is a wonderful place. I was there about 2 years ago, and Bar Harbor, according to our AAA drive travel statistics, is the most popular destination in Maine, at least for our AAA members who are traveling there. And I think one of the great things about Bar Harbor is, first of all, its natural beauty is just unmatched. It's so beautiful. It's Acadia National Park, which is an incredible park with an amazing system of bike paths, by the way, the original carriage trails that are there, and it is just a beautiful place. I've cycled in Acadia, and it is just a gorgeous place to cycle. There are beautiful views, there are lakes, mountains. I mean, it's just a beautiful place to ride, and a very safe place to ride because those are off-road trails. I've also kayaked in Bar Harbor, and there's some great kayaking tours there, and the guide we had pointed out all the flora and fauna, all the birds on the shoreline, talked a lot about the history of the area. So kayaking is just a wonderful way to explore Bar Harbor, and it's quite reasonable. And you don't have to be athletic, to do it. You just have to be able to go out and enjoy kayaking. And they also have some sunset kayak tours that are just beautiful. A lot of great shopping in Bar Harbor, terrific restaurants. If you like lobster, of course, it's a tremendous place to go. And it's not a bad drive. It's about as I recall, 5 hours or so from this area, maybe five and a half.
Pretty coastline views.
Absolutely gorgeous.
I remember with a friend of mine had a plane that we used to fly different places and going up to Maine and coming back down along the coast. It's gorgeous.
Absolutely.
Really very pretty. And then you have trips here that, by the way, if you want to download this information, you go to AAA Southern New England /road trips, and you should be able to come up with the same information that we're looking at now. Bar Harbor, Maine, it says from $129. It includes accommodations at the Blue Nose Inn. I'm sure there are many other places that would also offer a reasonable, and then again, it depends on what time of the year.
I actually did the AAA drive travel vacation to the Blue Nose, and the Blue Nose was it's a fabulous place to stay. It's got a beautiful outdoor pool and indoor pool. It's on a high point, so there's a beautiful view from the top. There's a restaurant that you can walk to with a fantastic view of the whole area. I found it to be a wonderful place to stay, and we actually took our bikes into town from there, and it was a great location and very reasonable. And that's one of the nice things about the AAA Drive Travel Vacations is that they always offer a discounted stay with some amenities. Booth Bay Harbor is another popular Maine destination, and we have a wonderful 2-night package to Booth Bay. I haven't done this one, but we've actually donated it as a prize a couple of times, and people have loved it. It's a 2-night stay, I believe, at the Tugboat Inn. It includes, I think, a dinner one night, a visit to the Botanical Gardens, and a boat ride. And it's a very reasonable price, so I certainly have to recommend the Booth Bay Harbor trip as well.
Don't forget your bicycle locks. You have to have the locks. There's additional destinations that they have on here, which we can just touch. The Adirondack Couples Escape, Atlantic City, New Jersey, Augusta, Maine, Booth Bay Harbor, you mentioned, Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, Halifax, Nova Scotia, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. These are all locations that you can check this website and learn a lot about. Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, the Spirit of Gettysburg, from $497, which includes 2 nights accommodation at the historic Gettysburg Hotel, established in 1797. Breakfast each day and dinner one night, a whole bunch of other things. What about Gettysburg?
Well, I have to say, I've been to Gettysburg many times, and Gettysburg is just a wonderful town. Gettysburg College is there, and of course, the main attraction, the battlefield. And the battlefield is just a tremendous place to visit. And you can learn so much about the history of the Civil War by visiting Gettysburg. The guides are fantastic. There's a terrific museum there. The town itself has great shopping and restaurants, and it's also in a part of Pennsylvania that's close to some other great attractions. You mentioned Harrisburg, which is a very nice city. I actually lived there for just under 2 years. And Hershey, Pennsylvania is close by with all of the attractions, Hershey Park,
Hershey
Chocolate
bars.
World.
Hershey bars.
Hershey bars, that's right. You gotta do the chocolate if you go there. The Hershey Hotel is a fantastic place. And then, of course, Lancaster, Pennsylvania with Amish country. And, so I think Gettysburg is a great place to visit. And you can also visit many other terrific places from Gettysburg.
Okay, going north, Niagara Falls, Ontario.
Niagara Falls is a fantastic place, and we've got a great drive travel deal there, but I have been to Niagara Falls several times, and I've been to both the Canadian side and the US side, and I was amazed at how much there is to do in Niagara Falls. I was there with my son, who was there for an event, and so I had to fill my free time, and again, I haven't been there recently, so I don't know if these things have changed, but there are a couple of terrific museums. There's an IMAX theater, there's shopping, and then of course there's the falls, and the falls are absolutely incredible. I mean, just a wonderful sight to see, and it's just a terrific destination.
Go there while the water's still flowing. The Maid of the Mist is another one.
Yep, I've done the Maid of the Mist, and that is a fun thing to do, and lots of great people always, riding with you, and it's just a great way to see and explore the falls.
Do they still have the helicopters that give you the tour?
I think they probably do. I'm not a travel expert for AAA, so I can't say for sure, but I have been to Niagara Falls several times, and I can tell you that it's from here, again, it's probably a 7 or 8 hour drive,
Yeah,
I believe,
like
I want to
that.
say, but it's a hefty
Many
drive.
years ago when I worked for a living,
Uh-huh.
as opposed to what I did after that. But we went up there. The company I worked for had factories up there where they made toilet paper, packaging material, and stuff like that. We stayed at the Holiday Inn, Howard Johnson's. I mean, right at the edge, and they had helicopter rides from there over the falls. I'll never forget. That's the first time I've been in a helicopter, up and out. All of a sudden, the bottom drops out.
Yes.
Wow! Never forget that one at all. Washington D.C., Rockville, Maryland. My family just came back from a trip there, as I mentioned.
I'm from the Washington area, and one of my favorite things about Washington, D.C., and I was actually just there for a couple of days about 3 weeks ago. Well, first of all, this time of year, we've just missed the cherry blossoms, but that's always a great reason to go in the spring. But the other thing that I love about Washington, D.C. for families is that the Smithsonian museums are free.
Excellent.
And you're talking about some absolutely fantastic museums. I mean, the Museum of Natural History, the Museum of History and Technology. I mean, you've got, the ruby slippers in there. You've got a whole history of American film. You've got a history of American machines and of industrialization. And, you've got, the dinosaurs in natural history and every other animal you can think of, and whales, and just, there is so much to learn. And then there are the incredible art galleries. The National Gallery in Washington has incredible collections. The Holocaust Museum. There are so many, the Museum of the American Indian. I mean, there are so many tremendous museums that are part of the Smithsonian, and again, all free. And I've noticed also that a number of them now have extended hours. They used to be open sort of roughly 9 to 5, but now a number of them are open later. So I think the fact that you're able to go there, and as a family you could fill your whole week with Smithsonian activities is really great. And by the way, don't forget the Air and Space Museum. Whenever I go to DC with my family, I cannot get my boys out of the Air and Space Museum. That's the only museum we end up seeing, but that's a tremendous museum. And by the way, just last year we did the Annex, the Air and Space Annex Museum, which is down near Dulles Airport. So it's a bit of a drive. There is a charge to get into that museum, but we saw the Enola Gay, we saw one of the space shuttles is there. There's just a tremendous collection of larger aircraft in there that is just not to be missed.
I recently had the same experience on a trip to California. I went to the California Science Center, and one of the exhibits they had in there, which was really thrilling, was the Endeavour spacecraft is in there. And to walk in it, under it and all that, that thing is huge. And they were in the process of building I think a 200-foot high building. They're going to take the Endeavour and move it into there and stand it up and open up the cargo bay. So you're really going to be able to get a chance to see what it's all about.
I remember when they were moving that through the streets of California to its destination.
Slowly.
Yeah, very slowly. And by the way, I just want to mention one more museum because it's my personal favorite in Washington, and that's the Newseum.
Yeah, I was there.
Isn't that terrific?
It's very interesting.
It's so interesting. So for someone like you who works, in television, they have Tim Russert's desk there, the late great Tim Russert, his desk and all of his personal effects are there, which I just found so touching and interesting. They've got a big slab, a big piece of the Berlin Wall there.
Yeah.
They have...
Including the tower.
That's right, and they have newspaper covers from all over the country. There's a tremendous tribute to 9/11, to the first responders and the victims there, a wonderful video and all sorts of artifacts from that day. So there's just so much in that museum that's fun to see.
My wife's company hired the whole place.
Really?
And they had it all to themselves, and we went through, and it was just really quite interesting to see. The one thing that we didn't talk about in Washington is the White House. If you want to go into the White House, I found out recently you have to apply for admission like 6, 7, 8 months ahead of time.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. That's interesting.
So if you want to go to Washington and see the White House and see where the president lives and works and does all that stuff, you have to apply 6 or 8 months ahead of time for the possibility. There's like 100,000 people a day or whatever that want to go through the place, and they can only accommodate so many. We don't have a whole lot of time, so maybe we can briefly touch on some of these other things. Atlantic City, New Jersey.
I haven't been there in years, but my mother-in-law, who's 83 years old, who's a senior, loves to go there and loves to go to the casino, and they also love to walk on the boardwalk and the beach, and she goes, and again, we have great packages there, and she does a 2-night stay, and they have a wonderful time. It includes meals, entertainment, and a number of other things, so definitely recommended, and she's certainly had a great time there.
She'd go there with a roll of quarters.
Exactly. How did you know?
I know. It's funny. I've been there a few times. I had an aunt that lived there, and Atlantic City is just gorgeous. But outside of Atlantic City, it's a huge difference in what you see. Like it's not slums, but it's not very pretty on the outskirts.
I haven't been to the outskirts, so I can't say. But to be near the ocean in Atlantic City is great.
Oh yeah, for sure. All right, Martha's Vineyard Escape. Martha's Vineyard is an island that's about 19 miles by 6 or 7.
Yeah, I was just there in September, and we had the most wonderful day. It is so easy to get to. We took the ferry out of Woods Hole, but there are a number of different ferries that you can take, and it was just an easy trip. You can take your bike to the vineyard very reasonably, and there's an incredible network of bike paths on the vineyard, and it's a very reasonable way to get there. You don't have to worry about making a reservation as you would with your car. You just hop on the ferry with your bike, and you can ride the whole island, basically. But we had a terrific time. We did a tour of the lighthouse in Edgartown, which was fascinating. We, of course, had a nice meal in Edgartown, did some shopping, walked on the beach. The vineyard, I think, is just such a treasure. I mean, it's so close, it's so easy to get to, and it's much more reasonable than people think, especially if you go over as a pedestrian or as a cyclist.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about a typical package, 2-night accommodations, 2 one-day bicycle rentals, and 2 one-day Martha's Vineyard Transit Authority passes, continental breakfast and free parking. They have a whole bunch of different rates starting in January at this time of the year, May 1st to June 12th, Sunday through Thursday packages for $308, Friday and Saturday for $368. So obviously the thing to do is to go during the week.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Roy. Going during the week or going off season, going before the height of summer, for example, you can really get some reasonable rates going in April, May, before the season really starts, or going in September when we went. I actually just did a trip to Ogunquit, Maine with some friends, and it was off season, and we had a beautiful room, where you could see the ocean and with access to the ocean and a pool, et cetera, and it was warm enough actually to go into the hot tub, et cetera, which was great, but it was very, very reasonable. The rates double and triple in the summer, so I definitely urge people to travel off season if they can.
Actually, going to Martha's Vineyard or the Cape during the summer, you're taking a chance on the weather. I mean, look what we've been going through with the weather now. I always tell people, you can go elsewhere, go down to the Caribbean or something and get guaranteed weather. But if you can't afford that, then definitely these trips that you're talking about. The Clarion Martha's Vineyard, do you know anything about that?
I haven't stayed at the Clarion, but all of our AAA properties, of course, are
checked out?
Oh, absolutely, AAA approved. And so you know that you're going to be staying at a place that's great. And I looked at the location of the Clarion. The location looks very good. The price certainly is very good. And again, that you're going to have a AAA approved property. So, we offer these trips because our members keep coming back. And in fact, we find the most popular trips are Washington, D.C., as you mentioned, Niagara Falls, New York City, Newport, Rhode Island is a huge destination, and Quebec City in Canada. So these are places that our members, constantly come back to. They've stayed at these hotels that are part of the package. They've done the boat rides, they've done the botanical gardens, they've done the dinners, and they keep coming back. So we know that these are places that our members have really enjoyed.
Tips from the AAA staff. Martha's Vineyard appeals to a wide range of people for a variety of reasons. For some, it's the outdoor life, the beaches, the sailing regattas, biking, golfing, fishing, or walking through the wildlife refuge. I hope they don't have any coyotes there. For others, the attraction is the charm of the bygone era, the stately captain's houses of Edgartown and Victorian gingerbread cottages of Oak Bluffs. Edgartown boasts of a stunning harbor, ivy-covered Greek revival buildings in the old world village center, many of the island's finest stores and boutiques, restaurants. It's a place to go.
Absolutely. I happen to love the vineyard, so I'm a huge fan of the vineyard. It's just so quick and easy to get to, so reasonable, again, if you're walking or bringing your bike, and then that great system of bike trails. And the history, as you say, the history of, you know, the homes, the gingerbread houses, as you mentioned, really unmatched, really great, very quaint.
We have a few more items here, but I have a bunch of messages that I want to get through, and then we'll get back to this and fill up the rest of the time. If we can have our new producer, Gina, there we go. We have something new to talk about. This is called Give Pints for Half Pints. This is SHRM's 6th annual blood drive for Children's Hospital in memory of Fran Stetson, who passed away recently. And this one is hosted by SHRM's Auto Body in Stoughton. It's Sunday, June 1st from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Breakfast and lunch will be served, and they really cook up a delicacy of whether it's breakfast or lunch. So my suggestion is you go, give a pint for half pints, and the location is the Society of Philharmonica de St. John's Club. I'm not sure how to pronounce it in Portuguese. It's at 845 Washington Street, Route 138 in Stoughton. You should make a reservation, but I'm sure that if you go there, you'll just stand in line and give a pint and walk out of there happy and fulfilled. And at this time, although he's not around, he will be for the next show. I want to offer my congratulations to Joe Feaster. He is one of the winners of the Lifestyle Change Awards presented by the Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center and the American Heart Association. This award recognizes Boston area individuals who have made dramatic lifestyle changes that have improved their heart health. And now, the most important part of this, the crew would like to thank Maxie's. I get such a kick out of that. Okay, Dave, go away. Maxie's Delicatessen. It's 117 Sharon Street in Stoughton. To reach them, you dial 781-341-1662. They provide us with the delicacies that we have, whether it's breakfast or lunch, and everybody walks out of here fulfilled. And we thank you at Maxie's and hope that you'll patronize that delicious deli. The American Cancer Society is looking for volunteers to drive cancer patients to and from treatments. Dial 1-800-ACS-6662 or go to www.cancer.org if you're able to offer some help to this very valuable organization. The Ilsa Marks Food Pantry and St. Anthony's Free Market, now located at 2 Park Avenue in Stoughton, which is right off of Park Street. For more information, they can use your assistance. Call Christine Gallagher at 781-341-0611 or 781-341-0549. Meals on Wheels, always looking for help. They need people to bring meals to shut-ins who otherwise don't really have a chance to mix in with people, and they really appreciate it when you come there and offer a little bit of conversation along with the food that you bring. You want to call 781-344-8882, extension 2, and ask for Jessica. The Stoughton Penny Saver. Our business is advertising your business. Whenever we have a message to get out to the people, the citizens of Stoughton, we use the Stoughton Penny Saver. They're at 27 Rose Glen Street, Stoughton, Massachusetts, 781-344-4833. Their publication reaches every house in Stoughton. Now, this one here is a little bit more involved. This is the International Forum Show. This is a show that I started several months back where we hope to interview guests that have local roots throughout the world via Skype. Now, this show is kind of interesting in that what we do is we look for people that have Stoughton roots, kids from Stoughton, business people that have left Stoughton, but they still maintain their contacts. We've done shows from Ghana, we've done shows from Tanzania, we've done shows from Haiti, we've done several shows from Israel, and if those of you who are really interested in what's going on, May 22nd, we have a scheduled interview with a young lady who graduated from Stoughton schools, and she's in Prague, Czechoslovakia. Hopefully that connection will work out, but that should be a real interesting interview. It'll be handled by Joe Feaster, and hopefully you'll check the times and stuff when we show it to you. And if you have anybody that you think that would fit into what we want to do, people with Stoughton roots that would be an interesting hour of discussion, please contact us. You can call me on my personal cell phone at 781-760-6991 or drop a line on the internet at international.forum yahoo.com. The show is seen regularly at Sundays at 8:30 p.m., Monday at 11 p.m., Wednesday at 9 a.m., Thursday at 9:30 p.m., Saturday at 12 noon on either Comcast Channel 9 or Verizon Channel 28. And in Easton, check your local listings for the broadcast times over there. Stoughton Farmers Market is going to be getting into action very shortly. They're going to be located this year at the First Parish Universalist Church, which is in Stoughton Center, and they're going to be operating Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. starting June 7th, rain or shine. Hopefully the rain will be all gone by then, and it should be. This is a nonprofit, volunteer-run function. It should have 3 farms, 2 bakeries, and more, and then some live music to go. So go down there for that fresh fruit and food that you want to be picking up and support the organization's efforts there. Community Forum Showtime. Stoughton, it's Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and Sunday at 6 p.m., Monday at 8 p.m., Tuesday at 5 p.m., Comcast Channel 9, Verizon Channel 28. And if you have any comments or suggestions for what we can do with the show, please contact us, communityforum1@yahoo.com. And in Easton, the show times are Monday at 9 p.m., Tuesday at 8 a.m., Wednesday at 3 p.m., Saturday at 10 a.m., Comcast Channel 9 and Verizon Channel 22. And the same information. If you have any comments or suggestions, contact us at communityforum1@yahoo.com. And I think that's it as far as the messages are concerned. Very quickly, Newport, Rhode Island. You have about a minute and a half.
Oh my gosh. Well, just such a fantastic place. I mean, in historic port, number one, a great sense of history, and just so many great places to see down on the waterfront. Also a tremendous, sailing mecca for the world, really, host of the America's Cup so many times, including recently. And just a fantastic place to shop, to dine, and to experience the history as well as the sailing heritage, the nautical heritage, Newport Yachting Center, just a lot of great places to go and see.
And the coastline.
And the coastline.
Did we talk? We didn't talk about Salem, Massachusetts.
No, we didn't talk about Salem, but I have been to Salem, although only at Halloween time, which is really a terrific place to go at Halloween time because, of course, you have the witches and all of the other folks, many other folks dressed up in costume, and also a wonderful waterfront community and terrific shops and restaurants, and just, again, a terrific place as far as the history of Massachusetts to see.
Mary, we only missed out on White Mountains. You'll have to save that for the next one.
Go skiing next winter.
Skiing.
White Mountain's great in the summer and in the winter.
I appreciate your coming on here. It's always very interesting when you're here, and we look forward to your next visit.
Thank you for having me, and congratulations on all the great things you do in the community. I hear you read the community bulletin boards, and I think, wow, they're lucky to have you, Roy.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate that. And we'll see you again soon.
Bye-bye.